Welcome to episode 19 of Chats. Today we are talking about the coronavirus. It's me, Corbin.
And Sarah.
And we are quarantined in the closet.
I was going to say that. That's so awesome that you started with that. It feels like self-distancing in the closet.
Mom and I are a safe distance away from each other.
Yes.
I'd say like a couple feet.
A foot and a half.
Yeah.
Yeah, maybe.
At most. I hope everyone listening is doing all right.
Yes.
Hopefully this podcast helps pass the time.
Finds you well or
Yes.
recuperating if you're not well.
Exactly. And obviously, this is something that I've been kind of telling Mom for a couple of weeks now. I've said, we should talk about this coronavirus stuff. It's starting to really...
It's starting to trend.
Yeah. I think this coronavirus stuff's really going to blow up at some point. And this week just happened to be the week where literally it is all
Everything
about...
blew up.
Everything is happening all at once almost. So things kind of started at the start of the week. A couple movies were being delayed or even...
Can I just pause you before
Yeah,
you...
yeah.
I know you're ready
Yeah,
to get into your stuff. Before we get into this, I know we're kind of a lighthearted podcast.
Yeah.
We're gonna try and take this with kind of a humorous vein when we can.
Yeah, that's how we like to put like
it's-
a happy spin on things.
It's not to minimize the seriousness of this. And I also want to emphasize that we are not medical experts.
No.
We're not going to sit here and blow a bunch of stuff out there that is going to be misleading or is quasi-factual, because I think that's part of the problem we're dealing with right now. So if you are looking for information, if you want to get the source straight from the authorities, you want to be going to the World Health Organization, your governmental, like your Ministry of Health, your government agency, or your local public health agency. I think that's really important to say off the top. So if you're coming here thinking that Corbin and Sarah are any kind of knowledgeable sources of information.
Not really, not quite.
We're here to entertain because we know there's
Exactly.
going to be more and more people that are going to be shut in. So I'm sorry to interrupt you.
No, that's all right.
I just thought that disclaimer at the beginning might be a good set the tone kind of thing.
Yeah.
That we're here to help you get through it and have some fun. Maybe talk about some of the things that are kind of irksome about this particular situation, and how, when we talked about this outside of the podcast, some of the things that we can see being a problem moving forward that we should be talking about how to prevent those problems now. But anyway, back to you. You're gonna set the table as far as where we were a week ago and how much has evolved. Sorry to interrupt.
Even back a couple weeks ago, the first things that were canceled, I guess, was the James Bond movie, and it started becoming more and more films coming up.
Which people thought that was kind of odd that happened. They thought that was a little drastic.
Yeah, it was around 2 weeks ago that happened, and then this week, literally on Monday and Tuesday, Fast and the Furious, which isn't supposed to come out till like summertime, has been pushed back a year.
Yeah.
A Quiet Place 2 has been pushed back indefinitely.
That's the John Krasinski movie that the first one did really well.
Yep. Mulan has been pushed back to an unknown time. And then there's another one that was coming out. So many films are being pushed back now.
Well, no one wants to go to the movie theater.
No.
Like, that's the last place you
No
want
one
to be
wants to
now.
risk that at all. And then right after that, we're hit with the NBA postponing the season, suspending it as of right now, followed by the NHL a couple days later. And in this time, in between that, Tom Hanks and Rita Wilson tested positive. And I think that really opened up people's eyes, because I saw a lot of jokey people on Twitter saying, my family and I, we're not taking this seriously until someone famous gets it. Then we know.
But you start messing with Tom Hanks.
Tom
and everybody,
Hanks,
it got real quick.
Everyone was worried. They are doing okay. They said that they're taking the necessary precautions. Precautions.
And they're in Australia right now.
Yes, they were filming a movie.
Yeah.
And they have it. And then in America, the travel from Europe was banned for 30 days. And that's kind of, I think everywhere is kind of just closing off transportation.
And the entire country of Italy
yes
is on lockdown.
Yes, Italy is in a bad spot right now.
Yeah.
But kind of like what we're doing, we're trying to take it and make it, a little positive. People who are quarantined in their houses in Italy has gone viral of these people singing and
All in their apartments, coming out
Yes.
onto their balconies.
and each of them have different instruments. Some of them are singing, and there's kind of one guy who's kind of like orchestrating it all.
Yeah.
It's very beautiful to watch, and I was gonna.
It was touching. I was moved.
I was gonna
by
have that as our high note for this week.
Oh.
but mom has a good one.
But you could maybe post a link to that in the show
Yeah,
notes
we'll try
or
and
with our
share
social
it.
media
Yeah.
because and it has gone viral, so maybe, which
People have already
is
seen
kind of
it.
an ironic term to use right now, but
Yeah.
most people have probably seen it. But if you haven't seen it and you're feeling low, it's a wonderful example of what humans are capable of. Because
Yeah.
right now in Italy,
In dark times.
it's bad, and to understand how bad it is, they are literally in a place where the health professionals are deciding who lives and who dies based on the fact that there is such a minimal amount of medical equipment and medications available, that if they don't think they can save your life, if there's not some guarantee of a positive outcome, they are not even trying to, I should say not trying to treat, but they're not taking those extra steps. They're trying to save
Because
the
they
people they
can't,
know
yeah.
they can save. What a horrific position that must be for people who are in the career of trying to save and help people.
Yeah.
Like what a devastating thing. And that's why the steps are being taken now here in North America, specifically Canada, which
Yes.
we're broadcasting from, to say, do a little self-isolation, distancing from other people, not being out in public spaces, not congregating with large groups. Because if you do that, we're not going to have this possibility of rapid exposure, which will then devastate our medical services. Because, we live in a small town and we have a hospital. We're lucky that we're large enough to have a hospital. But right now, if even a quarter of our population were to get sick,
It's
a
not big
percentage
enough.
of that,
It's not big enough.
with that the hospital would be done.
Yeah.
And that's not taking into consideration the people that maybe need it for having babies or
It's everyday stuff.
dialysis or not dialysis, chemo treatment, things like that that are fairly routine in this day and age. So it's a lot right now.
It is a lot, and it was kind of going back to Italy. It was spooky. Midweek, there was a person from Italy and a bunch of people from Italy going on social media and typing out big long paragraphs of warning almost to Americans, Canadians, and other worldwide of people who haven't taken it seriously, saying that you guys think it might be ridiculous that your local fairs and festivals are canceling, but it was ridiculous to think that a week ago here everything would be shut down. Like Italy is under
it's
lockdown.
a ghost country right now.
And the person saying like, we thought that was impossible a week ago, and now look at us. So
That's how fast.
and they're like, take it seriously. And their words have been echoing throughout the week because, as I just stated, all that stuff that's happened, no live events, like sports events, like things happening almost months from now are being canceled.
Well, and even with us, like tomorrow, we're recording on Sunday.
Yes.
The first day of March break would be tomorrow, Monday.
Yes.
And all the schools in
Ontario
who would normally have March break are now being required to take an additional 2 weeks off after March break. So they're not going back to school right now until April 6th.
Yeah, and that's we did finger quotations because if this virus continues, or if it continues to grow, or even if it starts to decline, they're still probably going to need some more time just to make sure.
Yeah.
So I think it's going to be longer than 2 weeks, and there's a couple of events that are happening in and around our area that in the summertime that I'm telling Mom, like a lot now. I'm like, I would bet you good money that it's going to be canceled.
Yes.
Not right away.
We're going to do a side note.
Yeah.
And I didn't even tell you I was going to say this.
Okay.
But we have to take a moment and acknowledge the fact that you just got an amazing job. And we don't have to talk about what the
Yes.
job is, but let's just everybody take a moment. Yay!
I did it.
Well, it was good timing, and the reason you're referencing that is the job that you have
Yes.
has a lot to do with community events
Yeah.
and public engagement. And fortunately, in your work, you're able to work in isolation. So
Yeah.
even though you're going to go to work, you don't have to interact
No,
with people
it's
right
not.
now.
I used to work at a grocery store, and that I feel bad for those people now.
Yeah.
Not just because of the crazy customers, but as you said, you should be in isolation. You shouldn't be in public with large groups of people, and with everyone panicking right now and going to grab stuff at the grocery store.
They're not thinking clearly.
No,
Or
so
the
I
best,
feel
yeah.
I feel bad, and it's hard. You can't close a grocery store unless it's like Italy.
Yeah.
But right now, we're not at the stage yet where you can close it.
Yeah.
And when I worked there, they never closed it for absolutely anything. So I'm not surprised that they haven't done anything yet. But
You're seeing notifications from the government to where you are saying, looking ahead. That's why
Yeah.
you're saying a couple months down the road. So things that would be happening in April
Yeah.
are canceled. There's talk about things that are happening in June and July with saying, be prepared, be aware. So the government
And
is
that's
taking,
happening all over.
and then the government is taking those steps to say, be prepared to reevaluate having these events because they're not sure what's going to happen either. So erring on the side of caution as opposed to disregarding and saying, yeah, you know what, like we're just going to deal with March break. And I think that's smart because we don't know what's going to happen. There could be a mutation of the virus as well, not to create panic, but that's common.
Well,
when you see that happening even with the flu from year to year. They create a vaccine for what they think the flu is going to be. And a lot of times, shortly after they start distributing it, that flu strain has already morphed into something else. So it's to be expected.
It's a race against the clock almost for scientists and people of that sort of thing because they don't want this to grow out of proportion. So they're probably working around the clock.
I saw an article this week, and of course, reliable sources, people, make sure you're using reliable sources.
Yeah.
Sunnybrook Hospital announced that some of their researchers have been able to isolate the virus, and I've seen other medical institutions since then saying, like, everyone's going hard at this. This is, I'm sure, the number one priority for most researchers is to find, if virus is your specialty or public health is your specialty, that they are looking into getting a handle on this as soon as possible for public interest, right? But I know people that still went away on March break. There's people that are still planning trips in the coming weeks. And
there was a notification today saying for all Canadians who are traveling abroad to get home immediately while you can because Canada doesn't know, if/when they're going to maybe have to close their borders completely.
To contain it, right?
Which I would have done that immediately. But there's all this stuff, like behind the scenes stuff they have to take into account that we don't know. But in my black and white world, I would have closed off the borders, completely shut everything down, and just kept everyone at home.
Corbin has armed guards at every border crossing, and you're not coming across anymore. But yes.
I would have called a state of emergency a couple weeks ago.
I understand the process. I get it, and I think it's hard for people, and I see that again going back to social media, people that are really getting caught up in the sensationalism of it, that are not really going farther than a headline. Like they'll share an article but maybe not read the article. And I think it's really important right now, as much as it's in our best interest not to share a virus, it's also in our best interest not to share fear or panic. And to really sit there and say, no, but I'm even saying, like, in the public, for me to go, oh my gosh, this is happening, and then you read something that I've posted, and then you pass it on.
That's why the reporters do it, because that gets clicks, that gets shares, it gets the money. And that's what a lot of news outlets, like on television, like, you go on it, and they're talking about survival kits, what you need to survive in isolation and stuff. And it's like, that's why the toilet paper phenomenon is going on right now, because people see it on CNN or some other type of network.
But that's all. You can't just blame the media on that. People have to be responsible for their own thoughts and actions. And I used to be in the media once upon a time. It was a different world when I was in media. But in this day and age, people are not sheep. People need to swiffen up and. I was going to say something else there, but you really need to own your own actions and responsibilities. If you are going to Costco and you are buying 10 or 12 mega packs of toilet paper, you're an asshole. Sorry, there's my explicit. There it is. You're an idiot, because there is no way that you need that much toilet paper. And for the people who are taking that and then trying to sell it, you are lower than low. You are the scum on scum, because people are... I mean, you look at every household runs differently. There is no need for more than one mega pack. And I'm saying that if you've got like multiple people, like multiple people in your home, this is not going to last forever. No. But the thing that I found shocking is that it's taken so long. And I've just noticed a couple of stores initiating it today, limiting the number of purchases. No one should be allowed to buy 10 or 12 mega packs. There's fist fights at our local Costco, which is about an hour away. And this is like in the smallest city. Like it's not a big city. The fact that there were arguments and physical aggression is absolutely stunning to me.
There are people coming from the cities to our small little town because they are that desperate to get a hold of hand sanitizer, wet wipes.
And we have that on good authority because we know someone who works at the
Well,
department
and
or the drugstore.
I have friends as well that work at Foodland, but people are that desperate for it, and they will come far and wide during a pandemic. And one thing I have to say,
Say, what is it? What's the one thing you have to say?
infuriated me. I went out the other day and drove to the city that you're talking about, and I saw so many elderly people outside walking. What are you doing? What are you doing? I know they have to get their exercise in, but during this time, don't do it. If you're listening to this and you're walking outside, please don't walk on the spot. Walk around your house, or maybe just.
Say they're not discouraging that though. I know what you. I think it's a bigger threat if you're walking. Like some people go to the mall to walk. I think that's a bigger threat than walking outside. If you're walking outside, you're not in close proximity to someone else. My understanding is that that's not a high risk behavior, as opposed to standing shoulder to shoulder at Costco. Don't do that.
Yeah, I just think because in some of the cities, a lot of the cities, they're telling people like to stay inside, stay in their houses. Elderly people are the type of people not to listen to that and say, "Oh, I'm going to go for my daily walks. That's what I do." Just if you're in a large area where they're telling you, like hands down, stay inside, just do it. You know.
Yeah. It comes from a place of love. We want to keep our seniors safe. We don't want to see a number of seniors or our senior population under threat because they already have pre-existing conditions or their health isn't.
At the greater risk.
That's right.
That's why we want.
So it comes from a positive place.
When I see young kids out on the road, and I think the same thing, but when I see the elderly people, I worry more because they're at the greater risk.
And I think younger people, and I'm lumping myself in that group just because I'm not of senior age, but anyone who's not of senior age, if you're sitting there thinking, and we talked about this as a family a couple days ago, for people that are thinking, well, I'm not an infant, and even infants aren't really at that, well, I shouldn't say that high risk. They're not seeing as many cases coming up in the wee ones. For the, I'm not an older person, so I'm not, the target demographic. That's true, but you could be carrying it around and then leaving it somewhere for someone who would be at risk. Yeah. And I think about that because my mom is in that demographic. Yeah. Your grandfather is in that demographic. And I would be very upset to think that something I did or something that we carried to them caused them to be hospitalized or worse. That would be devastating. We've got a number of aunts and uncles, great aunts and uncles, that would be in that senior demographic. I think about them all the time and worry about, are they okay? And we're in contact with them. When I say that, it's not like we're not in contact with them, but just making sure that, they're doing their best practices and that other people aren't being careless and perhaps exposing people we love to something because we wouldn't necessarily be the ones to do it. No. So there's a lot to think about with this. And the other thing that I wanted to talk about was there's an increased response to, or an increased reaction to the idea of a complete shutdown. Like right now, the way it is that businesses, people are encouraging employees to stay home or work from home. I am in the position where I can work from home. And I'll probably do that a couple of days this week. There's really nothing that, actually most of my week got canceled because of this. I was supposed to be in some school environment, not school environments. No, one was actually an educational environment. And a couple of community events, and as they say, with an abundance of caution, those have been canceled, which was absolutely the right thing to do. Yeah. I'm not upset or disappointed by those decisions. I think that's responsible, and in the grand scheme of priorities, the work that I do is not nearly as important as the public's ability to stay safe and be healthy. So, I'm fortunate. Your dad is fortunate as well. Yeah. He's in a position where his employer has actually taken some steps to say to their employees, we're willing to work with you and keep you safe and your family safe and give you some flexibility in being able to stay at home and care for your families. Because a lot of the people that work with your dad's company do have young families. Yeah. I thought that was excellent. It was a real sign of leadership, and I think we need more businesses to do that. But there's a lot of people that don't have that flexibility. No. And I'm thinking smaller specifically of small businesses and also the entertainment industry. And that can be anything from live theater. We've seen Broadway go dark. Toronto, those shows are done.
The
regional
movies.
theaters. We were talking about cineplexes and
Yeah.
movie theaters. I'm also thinking of things right down to restaurants.
Yeah.
People are not taking the chance to go out and eat. I feel badly for those people because they're the ones that are going to hurt the beginning. They're the ones that are going to feel the pain first. And I hope people are thinking about that as far as how can we support them. And the one thing I would advocate is gift cards. I've seen that suggestion online, which I think is wonderful.
Yeah.
Buy a gift card now. Think ahead for even Christmas next year. That goes to Sarah, likes buying Christmas gifts ahead of time. But think of birthdays and things like that and grab a gift card to a restaurant or, my sister is in the service industry. She is a hairstylist and has, services like facials and manicures and pedicures as well as hair care. So for someone like her, I would advocate for that as well because it's going to be tough if people stay home. She needs people to come out. So I feel very strongly about that. I also think that if we do a complete shutdown, there needs to be a conversation about the financial impact of that. Obviously, we would go immediately into a recession because you don't think about how many people on a day-to-day basis are out spending money, acquiring services. I laugh because gas right now is the cheapest I've seen it in 2 years.
Oh, yeah.
And no one's going anywhere.
83 cents. It's insane.
I haven't seen that in ages.
No.
So, that's going to have an impact too because people aren't going to be traveling like they would normally.
No.
But the people that are, like I say, if you have a small business or you're in the service industry such as entertainment, if you're a person who has to work multiple part-time jobs to have a full-time income, which is more common than I care to think about, I was one of those people for a while. First of all, incredibly stressful at the best of times. I can't even imagine the strain that they're going to be feeling now.
Yeah. 100%.
So we need to think about those people, and I would hope that, banks with mortgages or landlords, things like our utilities are going to sit back and say, okay, we have had an extraordinary event happen here. We're going to have some flexibility because this isn't going to turn around overnight. If you are looking at, oh, wow, I've been laid off or I have to close my business down for a couple of weeks while this runs its course, you can't pay your bills. You're not going to be able to meet your obligations. We need to have some leadership there as well. Because the last thing we need is someone who's maybe been taken down for a couple of weeks dealing with this particular worldwide phenomenon and have them lose their house or lose their car or, now they don't have daycare anymore because they haven't been able to pay for their daycare for their children, that type of thing. So that's something I hope that is taken. That's the big picture part of it.
Yeah.
I also want to give a big shout out because we talked about, being able to stay home. There are some people that's not an option.
No.
If you're a first responder, like our police, our fire, our ambulance, the fact that you guys are still doing what you do and dealing with people in an elevated stress situation.
It's very respectable.
Oh,
It's highly
kudos to
respectable.
you. Kudos to you for sure. And then, of course, it goes without saying anyone involved with the medical field, and that's right from like our doctors through to the custodial staff, because a hospital must be
Clean.
exceptionally clean. And then, of course, the nature of this particular virus. These are people that are putting themselves at risk and going to work and being around the most sick of our population. And we want to make sure that we're sending them love and respect as well. And I hope that our governments, we're going to get political for a minute here, I hope our governments are looking at these types of situations and saying, when the rubber hit the road, when we couldn't go any farther with this, who were the people that were still there? And those people were our first responders and our medical staff. These people deserve all the glory and all the appreciation we can give them, and there should never be a discussion about how much they are worth to society and what they mean to the successful operation of a community. So that's my little political preachiness, but...
Well, it's true. They are putting themselves first. They always do. And especially during these spooky times, you have to highly respect that, and you have to be very thankful for those people to get up every day knowing the risk, knowing the little reward. So,
and a number of them are posting and saying things like, guys, we can't deal with this if it goes bad, so please take it seriously, right?
Yeah.
And you're always going to get people that'll say it's a conspiracy theory or it's government control. You know what? I'm okay with having a bit of a pause right now and letting this run its course and then go back to business as usual. It may never be the exact same as it was before because we've never been through something like this.
Yeah.
But I really think that anyone who has the option to stay at home or work in isolation, consider that just for other people. And like I say, it's a conversation we're having in our house to make sure we're keeping each other safe. Because that was a big thing too was, a lot of, your dad and I both work out in the community and move around. So if one of us brings something home, you and your brother are also going to end up being in isolation because you've been in proximity to us.
Yeah.
So it's not just about, what works for me or, what's convenient for mom. I don't want you guys getting sick. I don't want you to stop being able to go to work or your brother to not make an income. So from that standpoint, you do have to think about other people that are in your house.
Yeah.
So yeah, and it's funny. Do you know that popped into my head just the other day? Because people are talking about, I think, and you did a TikTok or something about this with the song It's the End of the World as We Know It. And I had a moment where I thought, this is a very interesting, it's an interesting comparison to think about what we're going through right now with the conversation about the environment. Mm-hmm. And you may not see the correlation. But what I'm thinking is people weren't taking that seriously either. People think it's crying wolf. Mm-hmm. And here we're sitting here saying, at some point there's going to be a point of no return and we're going to be in trouble. Well, look at how well we've dealt with this particular, this virus pandemic. Mm-hmm. We've got people that are losing their minds, hoarding for no reason, in some cases being pretty cruel and rather unkind. If this teaches us nothing, it's about we need to get it together as far as how we're going to conduct ourselves as a society and how to better prepare ourselves. Because if we can't handle this, there is absolutely no way that we'll be able to deal with an environmental issue.
Yeah. Well, this is how in my mind, when people speak on, global warming and stuff like that, this is how I envision my mind of how we should be reacting to it. We should be we should be scared. We should be a little panicked about where the earth is headed.
Yeah.
And we should have people dedicating their time, which there are.
Yeah.
But we should have a lot more people worldwide focused and
taking action.
Taking action, of course. So I agree with you 100% about that. I'm not saying that taking anything away from the coronavirus, but afterwards it should be noted that it's not time to kick back and relax. It's
a teachable moment.
It's a teachable moment, and something don't repeat the past. That's practically what we're saying.
And I wanted to share a story that happened just on Friday. I had to take my vehicle in for servicing, and I ended up having a conversation with an individual at the dealership that really just took my breath away, and it ties into what I was saying about people not behaving, people behaving badly. So one of the first things that came up during the conversation was a very a racially charged comment about the virus having originated in China.
Interesting.
Which took my breath away. And then it was followed up with a statement about how the entire country and its people should be, quote unquote, held accountable. I didn't want to know what that meant.
No.
I made a couple of comments where I said that I'm not sure that's fair. Again, I'm not a scientist. I'm not a public health expert. I'm not going to comment on how it started or how it left the country. I think what it comes down to is North America, Canadians, and before that, when we were all Europeans, everybody's got skeletons in their closet. We've all made bad choices as cultures. And I think the fact that someone who, I'm going to say was basically a white guy, was making a lot of negative and, like I say, racially charged comments because he felt that this was a bunch of BS, that was one country's fault, that he felt... and the other comment he made was that he didn't think it would impact him, so he wasn't overly concerned about it. So I'm immediately freaking out because I'm in a vehicle with him now, and I'm thinking everything in this vehicle is
hasn't been
possibly
going
to test positive for something.
Yeah. Well, and the thing is that like China has been hit the worst, obviously, and like their country's been absolutely crippled by this.
So let's kick them when they're down.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Just why? Like everyone's upset that the coronavirus exists. That's not a lie.
Yeah.
But to blame an entire country that is being ravaged by it right now, afterwards maybe go to some of the higher ups. Like this
There
is
definitely needs to be a conversation, but I think
this is at a world level though. This isn't a dude at a car shop.
Yeah.
You know, doing it. No, they need to.
Yeah.
The higher ups need to have a serious conversation with the people who maybe knew about it earlier, because we all know that the government knew about it in China since September, and it wasn't brought to light.
Downplaying it.
They were downplaying it till January.
Yeah.
So,
and again, I'm not trying to minimize how serious this is, and I know people are going to die. People are going to lose loved ones, and it's
people have
devastating.
Died and lost loved ones.
Yeah, and I'm thinking more North America than Canada. The numbers aren't there yet, but as far as that goes, I'm not trying to minimize it. I just am concerned that this could be the beginning of a whole new contagious element, which is racism, and that's not going to help us right now.
No.
That's not going to be any kind of help. That's right. So yeah, we kind of did the whole. That's been a heavy topic, and hopefully, like I say, the lightness of it is I've seen some of the best quality memes in my life on social media thanks to this.
The last 48 hours, Mom's been on her phone looking, and just like whenever you'll hear her giggle, and then a couple seconds later she'll be putting the phone in my face, saying, "Look at this," and they are quite funny. She's found some good ones.
I love someone who can do good wordplay or can take a visual and do something with it that's clever. And I'm not talking about cheap pot shots, but I've seen some stuff pretty damn funny.
Yes.
And again, if there's an opportunity to make a positive out of something or something that can bring people together, I think we need to embrace it. Yeah. And you know, in the event that you are isolated or quarantined in your home, you know, try and find the positives of it. And I'm not going to be idealistic and say, you know, play games with your family or, you know, enjoy quality movie time. I can guarantee you after 2 days of being locked up in your house with your family members, you're going to want to murder each other. Mm-hmm. And actually, that's my favorite meme right now is the post that with The Shining where it says...
The family of The Shining.
Yes, like saying, you know, quarantine with your family, you know, what could go wrong? And if you don't know The Shining, look it up.
Things go wrong.
Things go really wrong.
Families in quarantine.
Yes, stay away from all the hatchets.
Yeah.
But yeah, so we know it's heavy. We're not trying to minimize it. We're just trying to bring a little lightness and a little humor to what's otherwise a pretty dire situation.
Yeah.
And we hope that you can see the positives of it and that you're able to realize that there is light at the end of the tunnel.
Yes.
And if we're all doing our part to be smart, whether it's our shopping practices or how we conduct ourselves, you know, as far as our personal hygiene and our interactions in public, we're going to get through this, hopefully with minimal cases.
Yeah. And this is Corbin's last 2 cents on it. The main things you need to do. Don't go out unless you necessarily have to. The next thing...
Okay, which is code for Corbin is not leaving the house unless he's going directly to work and coming back. So you're not going to see him outside rolling around a snowdrift.
No. Number 2, wash your hands and make sure... Because I saw this... people don't realize that you have to doing the regular hand washing doesn't really include your thumbs
the
or the back of your hands. Do all of it. Literally take your time, like make it fun or something. Sing your ABCs. The next thing, stay away from people in public. Obviously, your family, like when you're indoors, sure you can like hug and all that.
Again, this works for Corbin because he doesn't like cuddling with people in public either.
So just keep a good distance away from people. And lastly, this is so important. If you're feeling sick, don't do anything. Contact the right people, as we said.
Yeah, go to public health first. Let them know, and that's your first step, and then they will help you from there.
Yes, and seriously. This is probably the last and main thing.
Okay, 2 things has turned into 4 things.
Yeah, don't panic. This is
No.
not the end of the world, and things will pass. Things will happen. And I saw a good quote that was like a nice peaceful thing where someone said, John Lennon said one time that in the end everything's gonna be okay.
Yes.
So if it's not okay, then it's not the end.
Mm-hmm.
So everyone's good. Take the proper precautions, and we'll all see the end. That didn't really sound the best, but
He didn't mean the
No.
end. He means
the
end.
end of the coronavirus.
That's right.
But
You know what I saw? I gotta
What?
tell you.
Yeah.
Okay, so I'm following Arnold
Yes.
on Instagram,
Yeah.
and he actually did a hand wash tutorial. So I think you should give everyone an Arnold
Oh,
hand
gosh.
wash tutorial.
Okay.
Like you good. And
Yeah.
it's if you need to be told who Arnold is, you'll know in a second.
Yeah. Okay. Well, here
He starts right from the beginning with turning on the
Well,
tap.
he's
So you gotta start with
he's
that.
coming into the closet here.
Oh, hi Arnold. Boy,
Ah.
it's full in here now.
Yes, I must keep a proper distance. All right, so we're talking about coronavirus. We gotta start with pre-workout before we get started in this workout
We're
today.
stretching, are we?
No, pre-workout.
Pre-workout. So we're
Drink the
drinking
pre-workout.
smoothies.
Make the smoothie and drink the pre-workout. And then we're going to turn on the tap and wash our hands very nicely. Soap and everything.
Soap and everything.
We gotta do 3 reps and 10 sets of this. And then the protein. And then maybe some steroids. I don't know.
No steroids.
Don't put that in, okay?
No.
Okay, this is Arnold. And I don't approve of the coronavirus. Thank you very much, Arnold. And I will not forget the main thing about the pre-workout, because that seems very important
That seemed
and essential
important
to the rest of
Arnold.
it. Yes.
The actual video is quite good, so check it out.
Probably didn't bring up steroids.
No, and he actually talked about soap and washing his hands. Oh my god. I'm sorry for the laughing. I have a hard time keeping my face straight when Arnold comes up. I'm glad we had a good laugh though.
Yes, and do you have something that will maybe brighten up their week?
Yes.
And it's perfect because we have a segment called The High Note. There we go. Never gets old.
Never gets old. Okay, so before we do that, we want to do just a reminder shout out that we'd like to hear from you guys. Maybe you've got some tips on how you're passing the time. Whether
Or
or not
you
you're
have some funny memes that you'd like to share with us. We'd love to see them.
Please send me the memes. That would be awesome. But if you've got tips or suggestions, again, keeping it positive. We don't want to hear about, any criticisms of agencies or anything like that. But give us some helpful tips that we can share with the rest of the listeners about how we can pass the time. Mm-hmm. And that way, it helps everybody, and we're all in this together.
Yeah.
So you can go to our website, website. No, there's no website. I can't manage anymore. We have an email address, which is chatspodcast@gmail.com. We would love to get your information there. Or you can post it to our Facebook page, which is Chats, and you can post it directly onto there. And any comments, shares, follows,
Messages,
likes, all that
all
good
that.
stuff. Maybe want to remind them of the platforms that we're on?
Yes. Well, we'll do that at the end of the
Oh, you want to do it at the end?
podcast. Yeah.
Okay, well, I was just tying it in. Okay, so as far as
Well, here we go.
the high note, we're going
Yes,
to do it again?
The
Okay.
high note. Ooh.
There it is. Okay. So the high note, because we know people are going to be kind of isolated or maybe just looking to put in time because they can't do things out of the house. So even if you're not in quarantine, there's just not a lot to do out there.
No.
I would strongly encourage you to check out your Netflix and go and watch Cheer if you have not watched it already.
Mm-hmm.
Now, we watched this about a month ago.
No, a month ago.
Yeah, think about it. Definitely more than a couple weeks ago.
I'd say just 3 weeks. Exactly.
Really, we're going to argue over a week.
Yeah.
Okay.
A month to me is 4 weeks.
That's what I'm saying. We're arguing over a week
Yeah.
right now. Anyway, we watched it in recent past, and it was an amazing... At the beginning, we kind of were like, meh. But once you get into past the first episode and you
Yeah.
really start to know the characters...
The stories
story,
behind them.
and just to give
and the competition.
Yeah, to give an idea, it's about college in the States, in Texas, and how these kids vie to come to this this college, because it's like an international award-winning cheerleading squad that's located there. Anyway, don't want to tell you too much, other than we looked at each other multiple times while watching this and saying, this is the most uplifting, amazing, especially one character in particular.
Yes.
As soon as you get to meet Jerry,
Yeah.
you're gonna love him. And if
I was screaming at the TV multiple times for Jerry.
Jerry's awesome. So yeah, I would recommend you watch that. It will brighten your day. It'll make you actually feel tired after some when you watch these kids doing the stuff that they're
It's
doing.
insane.
It's
and
amazing.
It will pass the time. It's not one of those long like chore of a show where you have to we have 20 episodes to watch. It's an hour long each episode, and it's 6 episodes, I believe. So it's a solid 6-hour chunk. Watch it all at once, split it up if you want. Fantastic show, and it's only on Netflix, so you need Netflix for that. But it was very good, well made documentary style. But you really get a good sense of the characters and the real people in it. So
yeah, just a fun distraction,
Yes.
something that gets you out of your head and makes you feel good.
yeah, and sit down with the whole family, because even
nothing
Dad at some points was watching it with us.
There's nothing in there that was inappropriate. I think
No.
young kids could watch it. Like, I
For
don't
sure.
think there's an age
No.
thing. There wasn't language. I don't recall. No, there shouldn't be any language, and there was certainly no imagery that would be troubling. It's awesome. I loved
Yep.
it, and I was excited to make that suggestion a couple weeks ago, and it just didn't work out with the timing of things. But I think this is the
I
perfect
think it is
time.
as well. And I think this is a perfect time for us to wrap up the podcast.
Okay, so now you're going to talk
Yeah.
about the platforms.
Yes. So you can listen to all of our podcasts, not just this one, all of them.
All of them.
All 19 episodes. We're almost at the big 2-0. You can get us at Google Podcasts / Google Play, Apple Podcasts, Spotify, and our YouTube channel, where you don't have to make an account for it. You can just simply hop in, listen, comment, like, and subscribe.
You better subscribe.
Yes, make sure to subscribe to the YouTube channel and follow us on all of the other platforms I just mentioned. And yeah, we have a couple solid hours of content just from our previous episodes you guys could listen to
Exactly.
while maybe in isolation or just whatever you're doing.
Boredom.
We'll take your boredom listens. We will take them all. But yeah, so thank you guys very much for listening, and be sure to join us for our next big 2-0, which I don't know what it'll be about yet.
Do something. Do you think Arnold's coming back? I don't know if we can deal with Arnold twice in a row.
He's expensive to book. He's a busy guy.
He's a busy guy.
But yes, so thank you guys for listening. This has been me, Corbin.
And Sarah.
And be sure to stay tuned for our latest chats.